So, did you tell me about your first time in the entertainment business? Is there something that you always wanted to be a director as?
Um, I've always wanted to be a director. Yes, I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to go, but I studied child psychology, so I ended up working at Nickelodeon through a kind of a bizarre sequence of events.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that I knew was working there in promos, and I ended up working on some promotional things for them. That's how I started out, and then I got the call about a promotional show they wanted to do called Slimetime, and they wanted to do live interstitials that promoted Double Dare 2000. And it was so successful that it outdid the ratings for Double Dare 2000, and they ended up canceling Double Dare 2000, and Slimetime ran for 7 seasons, and like 4.5 years, so it was a great success.
It was. I'm sure you hear stories from young adults how they used to come home from after school and watch Slime Time. I mean, I was one of them, so yeah, I think you probably
Yeah.
heard it. Yeah, but speaking of that, early on, is it true that you worked on Nick Arcade early for Nickelodeon on your resume?
I did. I did a little bit of production work for Nick Arcade as well. I've been freelance for quite a while, and that was another freelance job that I did. I helped out. They were kind of an outside production company, but they were located at Nick Studios, so um, I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
It must have felt like a precursor for Slime Time because you're working alongside James Bethea and Corinne Matev for two awesome producers for that. I mean, what do you remember most about that set and that crew of Nick Arcade?
Nick Arcade, it was groundbreaking, and James and Karim were. I've always seen them as just groundbreaking producers in television. They were always aggressively going after something new, and they were never intimidated by technology. In fact, they embraced it, and I think it was ahead of its time. They were almost ahead of the technology that existed. They took what they could and they made a pretty cool show, for the time, considering the technology that they had, and they integrated with Nickelodeon really well. And I was really honored to work with them. They were great people.
Yes, they were. This is kind of silly, but did you ever like try out the Video Zone Challenge? Ever go and test it out yourself?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. I get to play on the sets. That's one of the benefits of working on the shows. You get to go do all the things that the contestants get to do and try them out. And yeah, absolutely. It was a blast.
It was. It definitely seemed like it. And that was shot in Nick Studio. So what was your first impression, your very first impression when you arrived at the place?
Nick Studios is, or it was, a playground. It was a television playground, and it was colorful and creative and bright, and it just fostered creativity. It made you feel like a kid, no matter what age you were. And the walls were painted with Ren and Stimpy and all of their cartoon characters, and even in the control room areas. And it fostered a playful attitude, and I think it really it passed down throughout the whole crew. Everybody that I worked with on anything there was always thinking more like a kid, and I think it's refreshing, especially at that time, because we had a lot of freedom to play.
Yeah, I was just about to say that the Ren and Stimpy murals on the wall and all the Nicktoons stuff, it was a playful environment. And all of it was a huge studio too, very huge.
Absolutely. It was huge, and it was new and fresh to Orlando as well. So it was, I think, everybody in the area was excited about it. And Disney was building some studios. And, production-wise, it was a very busy time.
Yes, and if you remember the tour, there was like a tour where the guests they could watch you from like a glass monitor from up above. If you remember
Yeah,
that.
we called that the fishbowl.
Yes, that's right.
We used to love to turn around and see a whole bunch of people watching, and then sometimes we'd even put on a little show for them in the control room area, especially. We'd put up video games in the monitors and pretend that we were doing something different for the kids. It was fun.
Yes, it was. And so years later, when Slimetime Live aired, was that for kind of like a benefit from the original Slimetime You Match You Win? Was that something that you were trying to?
Exactly.
Okay. And how?
Yeah, and that one was done early on by a guy named Neil Sherman, and he was kind of the brains behind any kind of a game show concept with Nickelodeon. He was kind of the forerunner in all of that. He's still an executive with Spike TV right now.
Yes, that's right. I've talked to him. He's with Viacom. He's a brilliant guy. Really brilliant.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. I was also honored to work with him. I think it was a good collection of people too. They were creative people that were not afraid to try things.
Yes, absolutely. And you, alongside Neos and all the promos and Slime Time, like, what was a typical day like on set of that show?
Typical, typical day on the set. The beauty of live TV is that you come in fresh every day, and everybody loves that. We would come in with a new script and a new idea that we'd modify the script, and we'd work with the art department. We'd start with a production meeting at 10 a.m. and the production meeting was especially fun, and I always made sure it was fun because it was what started out our creative processes for the entire day, what got us motivated. So sometimes our meetings started out with a ride at Universal Studios. We would go over and ride the Hulk, or any of the rides, and that's how our meeting would start. So everybody would be pumped up and ready to dig into playful, fun, hard work.
Awesome. Was that one of your favorite rides to go on, the Hulk?
Yeah, it was a favorite of everybody. It was original and different, and we were kind of original and different, so it worked with us.
I like that. The Hulk is one of my favorite. It's just like, it doesn't start off like any ordinary roller coaster. You like zooms.
Yeah.
It's really awesome, and yeah, and green too. I must say that.
Exactly.
And I also like the Spider-Man ride. That's an Islands of Adventure too. I don't know if you got to.
Yep.
Yeah.
We went on that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Always fun stuff.
that's really good. So basically, getting on the rides helped you pumped up for the shows in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. We would start with that, or we would make. I probably shouldn't say this. We would make prank calls as a group, with a speakerphone with about 20 people in the room, and we would just randomly call people and ask them questions. We just had fun. That was the whole idea. We started out with fun, and we tried to keep that momentum going for the whole day. After the meeting, we would all start creating what needed to happen before the show started. And the art department was the busiest. They created puppets, and they made the mess. They preset any of the games that we had to do. So everybody would be bustling. It was like a beehive until we were live, and then you get the joy and the excitement and the thrill of doing live TV, which is it's a real rush. It's an adrenaline rush because it has to be done right the first time. There's no second chances, no second takes, no editing, and that's part of the fun of live TV. So the whole day was energizing, really.
And to add on to that, this was live, and so I remember Slime Time would come on in the afternoon. So you guys kind of had it easy. You guys had a pretty easy day for you didn't have to get up like early in the morning to shoot. If you correct me if I'm wrong though, but was that in the afternoon shoots?
We didn't have to get up early. No, we were. The day started at 10, and we were done by 5:30. So no, it wasn't a really long day, but it's always a very intense day because it was live TV, and there's no rehearsal. We would just dive into something well planned and scripted. A lot of people don't realize how scripted the show was. Every single thing that
Mm.
they would memorize things or read it off of cue cards and bullet points, and that was part of what we created throughout the day.
Okay, that's a surprise right there, because it was like a silly show, so I'm just thought everyone was having fun, but now you said scripted, like that's surprising now. So thank you for saying that.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that is a surprise to a lot of people, but we scripted it for fun,
Oh,
and it
okay.
was intended to look just fun, off the cuff, something we created on the spot. But it really was well planned, and a lot had to go into the planning for the budget. Because if we were going to dump a certain amount of slime or throw a certain amount of pies, we had to have everything prepared, in place. They had to be stored in a refrigerator until the last minute. So there's a lot of little details that people don't think about that are going on behind the scenes that kept us really busy.
I can't imagine. I agree wholeheartedly. Were you ever slimed though?
I was slime. It was a tradition with the crew that when it was their birthday, they get slimed towards the end of the show. And I did get slimed once, and it was, I tried to avoid it most of the time. I got slimed once, and I got pied. And the thing I remember the most about being slimed is that it's very, very cold.
Mm-hmm.
It's unexpectedly cold. You think of slime as being kind of warm in your mind, but it's refrigerated because it's made of materials that can spoil. So it has to be refrigerated. So when you see the people making faces from being slimed, it's not just that it might feel gross, it's that it's really cold.
Mm.
So it surprises them.
Yeah, because it's made in the GAT kitchen, which is refrigerated, and yeah, it has to be cold. But it tastes kind of good. I tasted slime. It tastes really like
Hmm.
sweetish, sourish, I must say. Really fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do believe that you guys got to be slimed on birthday, because I talked to Richard Swim, one of the prop masters from the show, and he did say he got
Right.
slimed on his birthday, so I believe that.
Yep. Yeah. Richard is a great guy.
Very great guy. And one of the things that I loved about Nick Studios was that, and especially for this show, you guys could get audience participation. You pulled regular visitors out of the park and have them participate in one of the challenges or the games. So that was a really cool aspect of being there too.
Absolutely. That was the core of what made it uh, crazy popular. I think it was not only that we were pulling people from the park who were the core of our audience, but we also often had a contestant playing on the phone at home. So you could, on any given day, because it truly was live, if you submitted your name to be a contestant on Slimetime anywhere in the country, you could be on, and that was a reason for people to watch, and that was a genius move because it got millions of kids to watch every day because their name could be picked, and it was legitimately random every single day. And if you were home at 3 o'clock Eastern, you might be getting a phone call.
Mm. And did this show attract a lot of crazy attention in the park too?
It did. In fact, we heard from a lot of parents that said they actually planned their vacations uh, so their kids could come see Slimetime. And
Mm.
that was a real honor to us. That's when we realized we had done something really big. It wasn't just a side attraction. It was something that people planned their vacations around, and that was
Mm.
really significant.
That is really good to hear, because so many parents, they bring their kids to the Nick Studios and it's basically like a family atmosphere, but in a way it was kind of fun to be there and learn about the all the crazy uniqueness and the attractions and the basically learning behind the TV studio. So it was really like a family friendly environment, especially in Orlando.
Yeah, definitely a family-friendly environment. Definitely.
And one of the popular things about Slime Time was all the celebrity guests there. Like, who was the coolest to hang out with from your memory?
um, well, the ones that stick out in my mind are at the time, they were huge. NSYNC was probably one of the bigger ones that we had
Oh
at the
yeah.
time. NSYNC was absolutely at the top of the charts, and that was fun. It was especially fun because we had transitioned from being a TV show that people were, we would call celebrities and ask if they'd want to be on the show. But we were at a point right then where people were calling us to ask if they could be on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And once NSYNC was on, that was kind of the tipping point. When other bands and other celebrities saw that people at that level, that bands at that caliber were on our show, they said, you know what, there's something going on there. We need to be on that show too. So we started getting calls from bigger names, and it was a lot of fun. It was an honor, and it was a little surreal because we never expected necessarily for it to be that popular. We expected it to be a successful way to entertain kids in the afternoon, but we didn't expect it to be kind of a craze, and it turned into something really popular.
Wow. Yeah, I do remember when NSYNC was there, and especially when the guests they would host the show all day long. That was an added bonus because they basically want to be there and entertain the audience. So big ups to them, I must say.
Absolutely, and something that we realized too is what kids liked a lot. It wasn't necessarily that the band was there playing music, which they would do. They would sing a song or two, but we looked at the ratings by the minute because you can look at up where things go up and people turn TVs off, and what we realized is it wasn't the songs that were the most popular thing when celebrities are on. It was watching them get throwing pies at people or getting slimed, or it was seeing them out of their element. You could always see a band playing their song pretty much anywhere, but you couldn't see them getting slimed or throwing pies at people anywhere, and we were the only place. So it was, we realized it was less about the music and more about the fun of getting messy.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine when NSYNC was there because they're crazy among teenage girls, but once they got all five of them got slimed or pied, it was like I bet the girls must have went like crazy or something like that. They must have like cried or something. Yeah, yeah, it must have.
Definitely.
Yeah, really fun. And when the sliming was above them, was that you? Did you ever like pull like a card for like them to like pull the slime on the buckets over the head, or was that all done by the stage guys?
It was done by the staging guys. We would load up the giant tubes that were above the kids' heads with slime after they were in place, and it was done with just bucket after bucket of slime before we went live. So they were always preloaded.
I see. All right, I've got it now. And pies, it's kind of good because it's good to eat some, but being pied, it's but being pied, there's nothing like being slimed though because I've been in a pie eating contest and it's kind of good, but there's really something about genuine green slime to be covered in that's truly one of the highlights of your life.
Absolutely, yeah. No doubt about it. There's nothing like it, that's for sure. And that's why I think kids really liked it, because it was a fun way that you could do something a little rebellious that would shock adults and grown-ups. It was that's where the idea came from in general was what can we do that is safe and fun but might shock adults. And that was the idea, just getting messy. Kids love to get messy. It's fun. And that's where the slime came from.
Very, very messy and fun, I must say. And being in Florida, especially in Orlando, in the 90s, there was a lot of heyday of it, TV production and film production, basically as Hollywood East. Was it a great time for you to be there and living and working there?
Yeah, it really was. It was a very busy time. And there was a lot of high hopes that it would stay that way. Unfortunately, it didn't for a number of reasons. But it was. There were production offices at Universal were so busy, people were sharing cubicles. It was, show after show was being shot there for Nickelodeon and other production companies. It was a really busy time, and yeah, it was an exciting time for Florida. It really was. It's a shame that it didn't stick around, but it was a good time for sure.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that. Like, why do you think it kind of decreased? Because it was really doing well. I mean, as a kid, you're not thinking about all the production issues, but back then, you just were excited to go there, and especially at Disney MGM too, where other stuff was being filmed at. You know.
Right. Um, well, there's probably, like anything, there's probably a number of reasons. My personal opinion, based on what I observed, is that when you're an executive, when you're a TV executive, and you're making a TV show, you often go on location to watch the show be shot. And I'm talking about shows that are taped and then edited and put on TV. And a lot of the shows that were done for Nickelodeon at Nick Studios were like that. And the executives would come down and they'd spend a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, and they'd make the show and they'd put it on the air and they'd see how it did. Now, when the show is successful, then you get to do a full season of it. That turns into 3-4 months, and then the executives are missing their families. I think that's the core of it. When you get into production that's taking them away from their homes, which is typically in New York or Los Angeles, they miss their families, and they just say, you know what, I'd rather shoot it close to home where I can go home every night. I think that's really the core of why things kept moving away. It was cheaper to shoot in Florida, and it still is in many respects because we're a right-to-work state, and there's not a lot of extreme expenses that you might find in Los Angeles or New York. But that's a big part of it. And then the second part is that it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. You can't have a lot of support companies supporting film and television if there's not a lot of work for them to do. So if you come to Orlando to make a TV show, say you want to make a Western, then you need Western props and horses, and well, we don't necessarily have a prop company that has enough to make an entire series. So you got to fly it in from Los Angeles or another part of the country, and then that gets more expensive. So a lot of companies were hoping to come in as we were really busy. Prop companies were popping up, and production companies, but there just wasn't enough to keep them in business because everyone kept moving out. Mm-hmm. I think there's a tipping point where if there's enough production, then you start getting enough support companies, and then you have a legitimate film and television industry. But it just never got quite enough.
I've talked to Scott Fishman. He said the same thing about executives missing their families and wanting to go back home and not live there like maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year. So I definitely agree with that part too. But
yeah, it's challenging and it's frustrating because I think Orlando was close. They were really close to that tipping point where we might have had enough, but not quite. Didn't quite make it.
Yeah, because in the early to mid 90s when the boom with film and television was going on there, but then during the late 90s when it was kind of the pop music boom was starting to happen in the late 90s and early 2000s with NSYNC being there and Backstreet Boys and O-Town who all came on Slimetime. So I guess that was a good thing to have them on the show too during that time.
Yeah, it was an ideal time. It really was. And pop music and boy bands were actually pretty big in Orlando. There was a guy, Lou Pearlman, that has since been sent to jail for fraud and things. But at the time, he was kind of the king of boy bands and pop music, and he was based in Orlando. So that was another reason why we were successful too, because a lot of his bands were on our show, and people started seeing Orlando as a kind of a base for boy bands. And at the time, that was the thing. That was the number one moneymaker.
Yes, it was. And in 2001, when the studios was kind of going on a declining mode, a lot of the props were shipped off. But did you ever get to Did you know where any of those props are today? Did you ever get to keep anything from maybe the set of Slime Time or the studio?
I think I have a sign that, not a big one, a little one, a Time Live sign in my house, and then I also have a puppet. I have one of the puppets that was created. There were so many. I think most of the crew that was with Slimetime for its entirety or for many, many years, they all got a little something. They all took a little bit of. Usually they were props, little things. Um, the big things, there might be a few in New York. It
Wow.
may be. I'm not really sure where some of the bigger things went. I don't think anything really got thrown away because Nickelodeon makes a lot of messy shows, so I'm sure they'd want to recycle things that was of any value.
Okay. Would that be at the Nick headquarters you're talking about in New York?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a few of the props, in maybe on display, and then some are actually in a warehouse, probably. It's actually a good question. I wonder if there's somebody that knows.
Yeah, it just puts you all into mind, your own thinking about it. But
Yeah.
but how great were all the staff who worked at Nick, especially Dave, Jonah, and Jessica, because they were three really popular hosts, and everybody loved them.
Absolutely, they were amazing. Um, they were exceptional on live TV, especially Dave Azer. He's a very unique talent. I think he's still on a morning show in
Yeah,
South Florida, somewhere near Miami,
yeah,
or Fort Lauderdale. He's a great guy, and he had a very unique talent to be able to ad lib on live TV, and that, of course, was essential in being successful. We had a number of challenges every once in a while with whatever technical issues and game board issues. There were so many things, and I had the challenge and the privilege of being the voice that was in his ear while we were in production for all of that time, for all 7 seasons. He wore a little device that let me talk to him. So from the control room. So when something was going wrong, or we needed him to add time or cut something short, I would tell him while he was talking, and that's a real challenge if you think about it. If you're trying to appear calm, cool, collected on television, and you're trying to run a game show, you're listening to people's names, there's kids screaming all around you, and then you got another voice in your ear saying, "We got to cut 10 seconds. Hurry it up. We got to get out of this segment." It takes a real talent to not stop and get the deer in the headlights look and put your finger up to your ear to try to hear me better. And he was really good at that. He's exceptional. And then Jonah and Jessica, they just played off of each other really, really well. They were all good friends, and that was, I think, the key to their success. They were friends in real life. It wasn't just a group of actors that were kind of forced to work together. They hung out together. They were friends, and that made a big difference in how they appeared on live TV because they knew each other, they were comfortable with each other, and they genuinely liked each other.
right, and they were really and very funny, I must say. But I think that's all to the script, though. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a combination. You can have a good script, but if it's not read well or delivered well, then it fails. So it's definitely to their credit. They made the script come alive, and they made it feel like it wasn't a script, and that's a true talent.
hmm. And in 2004, when you directed Splat, was it a different atmosphere because that was the only show taping there at the time? Did it differ, and especially in the daytime during Slime Time?
It definitely was different. It was a different atmosphere. It was a lot of the same crew, so that did carry the spirit of the fun with it. But it was a challenging game show format, shot in such a way that it was different than anything that existed at the time, where we were shooting in a round set, and it had its own technical challenges and directorial challenges, but we we kind of embraced the adrenaline rush of doing that um, because it was a challenge and it forced us to all be at the top of our game. And Rockman was an amazing host. He was energetic and fast, but he was very different than Dave Azer. So we also had to kind of adapt for his energy and his vibe, and you know, we had to make that look as natural as we could too. It was fun. That was a fun show.
It was. I spoke to Ramen, and he said the exact same thing, that SPLAT was very expensive to produce, and he would often get tired at the end of the day from doing it, from, you know, running around on set. So
Yes, and they literally had to run around because it was a round set. They were very busy.
right, right, right. Do you remember other shows taping at Nick besides Slimetime where you were at?
Let's see. Clarissa Explains It All was shot there. Roundhouse was shot there. Let's see. There was a.
You know, Double Dare 2000, of course.
Double Dare 2000, of course. Yeah, there was. But the name's not coming to me. But there were at least two other sitcoms that were being shot there. Some, you know, came and Taina.
Oh yeah.
Another show shot there.
Oh yeah. No One Knows Best too.
No One Knows Best. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of shows would start there, but then once they became successful, they moved out to LA. So they continued, and you know, that was kind of the curse of Orlando. A show would become a hit, and they take it away from Orlando.
Right, right.
Shame, but
yeah.
At least Slimetime stayed.
Exactly. It had no other choice to stay, I think, because there's no other big studio that would support a game show like that in LA, I feel like, you know.
Right, especially for the money.
Right.
We were generally inexpensive for, you know, all things considered. Considering it was a live show and we were using advanced fiber optic links that would, you know, at the time, that was advanced technology. Now it's kind of, you know, been there, done that, but that was groundbreaking because it was less expensive. It used to be you had to have an actual satellite feed sent up to a satellite, and Slimetime was done with. At first, it was done with a combination of satellite as a backup, but we ended up using a fiber optic feed, which was significantly cheaper.
Goodness. And do you have a particular favorite behind-the-scenes memory from being at Nick?
My favorite behind-the-scenes memory, I would have to say, it was actually, a lot of people got to see the results of it, but it was a classic live TV moment. We had all the power go out, the light, not the power, we had the lights go out in the studio. They were on a separate breaker, and something triggered it, so every single light in the studio went out. It was pitch black, and it was about 20 seconds before we went live. And we had a crew that just was used to doing live TV. Dave Azer was the one that was supposed to be talking, and I said in his ear, "We're going to do this in the dark. We're just going to go because the cameras are still on and we're still sending a signal. We just don't have lights." So he said, "Okay, no problem." And so he started talking, and he was amazing. He made it funny. He made it feel for the audience like they were a part of the problem, like they were experiencing it with us. As soon as he came back on, he said, "You know, we're going to do this a little different. We're going to do this without light." And then one of our fast-thinking crew members brought a flashlight over and handed it to Dave, and Dave put it on his face, and we did the segment with a flashlight and Dave, and he made it hilarious. He made it very, very funny, and that was a popular segment. We got a lot of email about that and fan mail because it really showed how talented Dave was. And, you know, we had backup plans. You know, if we had to go off the air, we had videotapes we could have run that experiencing technical difficulties. But I think I was really proud of the crew because I knew we could pull it off, and we did.
I think I remember that segue. I think I remember that episode with him having the flashlight over on his head and being dark in there. I think I know what you're talking about. but it's still.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what makes live TV so special is it makes the audience feel like they're really there. They're a part of something, and that's happening right now, and that's exciting. That feeling of excitement is rare. You really only get it in large doses in sports now. Live TV like that for entertainment is pretty few and far between.
It is. It is. I'm just now thinking about the dark being the dark studio. It was kind of like, Are You Afraid of the Dark Now? The other game, the other show on Nickelodeon. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
you all must have felt that way too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a funny one.
But the Nick Studios, it's closed for like 9 years now. I mean, it's almost hard to imagine. So many people miss it, and there's so many other things that people can do with it. It's by Blue Man Group now. Would you like to see it be reopened one day? Do you think it should come back?
I would love to see Slimetime come back. The executives at the time when they did take it off the air, I was told that they really did have the intention of bringing it back. They were saying they're not canceling it, they're shelving it, is the way they worded it to me. Now that was a very long time ago, and there's a lot of new executives that are come and gone. So I don't know what their intentions are now. I do speak with some people at Nickelodeon occasionally, and I work for them occasionally as well, doing specials. Mm-hmm. But I'm always pitching bringing Slimetime back because it's a classic and it works on the core of entertainment, which is just it's a lot of slapstick comedy and music and the simple things that kids love. It's just an escape. It's a nice escape to be silly for a while and feel like you're part of something special that's happening right now.
It is. It is. It's such a cool format to do for any type of program. I think so. And being in the afternoon in the park. I mean, yeah, it's really an easy show to make. I feel like
it is. For all things considered, yeah, it's not rocket science. It's just the challenge is making it new and fresh. But the concept is simple. It's let's be messy and laugh and have a good time.
Yes, yes. And what about the studio? Would you like that to come back one day too? The Nick Studios?
Absolutely. I'd love to see Nick Studios come back. They have a pretty good presence in Los Angeles and a smaller presence in New York studio-wise, and they do a lot of field production. They rent out studios. Nick on Sunset stays pretty busy. They still crank things out, but yeah, there was something unique about the size of Nick Studios Florida. It was, like you had said earlier, it was enormous, and you felt like you were walking into a fairy tale almost of fun. It was just so monstrously big. It felt larger than life. Everything about it felt larger than life, and there's just nothing like that. In film and television, that's kind of the glamour of it. Is being in places like that are nowhere else. And I'd love to see that come back.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. A lot of people do. And what do you think made it so great and special, though? Or do you think you just said it?
Well, I probably said pieces of it. I think what made it so great and special, the timing was right. I think it was a good time to bring in live TV for kids. Nothing had been done quite like that in the past, so it was new, it was fresh, and the music, the boy band music, the pop music that was popular at the time, it was also geared directly towards our target audience. So when we added that, along with the mess and the live TV and great hosts, it was a magical combination. It was just really special, and I think it was most of the people that I still talk to that were on that crew. They still say the same thing. It was their favorite time in television. It was it was their biggest and most fun time in television, and that's still the same for me. I've gone on to do a variety of things, but that was those were the greatest days for sure.
You know why I think so? Because I feel like it was less pressure on you guys because you guys weren't in New York or LA. You guys were in Florida. So I guess that must have felt like just a breeze in the air to be filming there, you know? I think that's why so many people said it was one of their best times in their life.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That was we did have a freedom, and I
Hmm.
think the audience felt that freedom. We were having fun too, and that's that's kind of rare in television because there's a lot of pressure. There's big budgets and there's a lot of responsibility in television because there's big budgets. So sometimes it's a little more stressful, but we were having fun and being successful. We were making the network money. So you're right. The headquarters was in New York, and my boss, Rich Berry, he he would check in with me. But if we were successful and the ratings were good, he would essentially say, you know what, keep doing what you're doing. It
Mm.
wasn't, it wasn't very complicated. If it's working, it's working.
Yeah, I love that. And the creative people who worked there who were so passionate about kids television were just really awesome to work with, I feel like, too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. They're fun people, and they still are. They're still making good stuff. But yeah, I think the spirit of that time hasn't quite been recaptured. I would like to see some of that come back, where there's a little more freedom and creativity. You see pieces of it here and there, but it's not the same. Not the same as those days.
Right, right. And that's why I wanted to create this project because just to see that Nickelodeon Studios in Florida was just it was a place where Nick was made. The world's first headquarters for kids was nicknamed it, and I think kids today
Right.
they need that sort of TV to learn and stuff, especially for aspiring is filmmakers and stuff. But also just be up close and personal. There's no other place like it, you know. You could get meet your favorite celebrities there, or make behind the scenes stuff and all of that.
Yeah, and that's the size of Nick Studios Florida really gave you that opportunity. It was not only a tour, it was a live show that you could participate in. It was the Slime Geyser. It was an experience, and it was a destination for kids. It was a place where they felt it was just for them, and it was special, and it really was just for them.
Mm, yes, it was. Oh, I almost forgot one more thing, but you know, especially when you guys filmed outside and sometimes inside the studio, you guys shot primarily outside. Did the Florida sun ever become a bother for you at all when filming outside?
It was a challenge. Yeah, the summers were
Extremely
brutal.
hot.
Yeah, they're extremely hot. We had to keep the audience cool. That was part of the challenge too. We would actually sometimes spray them down with hoses, gently, just to cool them off. And water was passed out between every segment. It was a challenge in itself, just keeping everybody cool and hydrated. Because yeah, it's dangerous heat. It really is, and to be out directly in that sun is not easy.
Wow. Yeah, every time I go there, it's really hot. I visit Orlando a lot because I have relatives there. And it's extremely hot and humid. And I bet the cameras have probably get melted at some point. Like, the cameras probably got malfunctional problems from time to time from the sun, I'm going to guess.
Um, they would get very, very hot, but they were designed to be hot. The biggest danger for the cameras was the mess. It was the slime and the pies and the
Hmm.
anything wet. That was
Hmm.
the bigger danger. And we had a few camera lenses get covered, and I don't think we had any major losses, but we definitely had to fix some cameras because of some mess. There's no doubt about that.
Right. It's a good thing that it's slimy because it's cold. So that was another way to get cool off and outside, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, really, it was some refreshment.
Right. Well, I really enjoyed talking to you today, Kevin. It was such a pleasure for you to participate in this.
It was great talking with you.
All right, perfect. And I hope you have a great 4th of July weekend and an amazing trip to Paris.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You have a great weekend too.
All right, you do the same. Bye bye.
All right, take care, Bella.
Bye bye.